If you're a parent, you've probably noticed the world is moving pretty fast, and its ideas are moving right along with it. And if you're like me, you might not be too happy about some of those ideas, especially when you realize they're being forced on our kids at an extremely young age. So, what can we do about that? That's an important question given that we as parents are ultimately responsible for raising our children. Talking to our little ones is a great place to start, and reading to them is a great way to promote discussion. That brings me to a vital resource I want you to be aware of. It's a picture book for readers aged 4 through 9, which introduces the topic of compelled speech to children. Ollie Adamson's Strawberries Are Red, a story about compelled speech, gently introduces this topic and is sure to encourage great discussion between you and your little one. Freedom of speech is essential, and our children should be made aware of this. This book is available on Amazon, and I encourage you to order your copy today. We owe it to our kids. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Clean Libertarian Podcast. And I have a very special treat in store for y'all today. This is my sponsor, Mr. Jeff L. Jeff has been working with me for like 10 years now, I think. We're close to it. And when it comes to like all of the wisdom and knowledge that I have in the rooms and in recovery, the bulk of that comes from this man. I've been able to learn so much about what it means to be a man in recovery, a man working a program, and I don't know how to adequately like compress that into like a 1 to 2 minute intro. Like the amount of things that I've learned from this man is just more than I can ever mention. And so I was super pumped whenever he agreed to come on and share his story. And I just know that you guys are going to get a kick out of it. So without any further ado, here is Mr. Jeff. All right. And I am here with somebody I've been really wanting to get on the podcast for a long time. Jeff, brother, I love you so much. Thanks a lot for hanging out.
Welcome. I mean, thank you for welcoming me on the show. This will be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you and I, hell, what's it been now, Jeff? 10 years?
I'd have to have you tell me that honestly, but it feels I would think so. It's been every bit of that.
Yeah, I think it has been, man. It's been a long damn time. We've been on this path for a minute, man, and much of the information that I have in my brain surrounding recovery and some of the finer points are, largely due to you, and hell. So I really wanted to get you on and have you kind of talk about your story.
Okay. Well, I know that we spent a lot of time together and we know each other intimately. And it's, without us reaching out to each other, we wouldn't be where we're at in our relationship or, so this is cool. We got a really good, strong relationship and, I love you dearly, brother. So, be glad to share about my story. If you're ready for me to take off, I can do that.
Yeah. Balls in your court, man.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas. It's about 15 miles south of Red River. And went to grade school there and junior high and what part of high school I made it through. I just got a message from one of my grade school friends that I played sports with and everything. And just the other day, and he was saying that a bunch of them were getting together from our old grade school. They're still friends living there in Wichita Falls, and they were all going to go to one of our another kid was.
Oh, did I lose you? You there?
In grade school with his house and have a pool party on Saturday. And he'd tell everybody that I said hello. I hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I hear you now. You
Yeah,
kind of
I
cut
saw
out there for a
the.
second.
Okay, but I had a friend from grade school ask me, talk about they were all going to a pool party and things like that. Well, I know that for me, that behind my story, I'd love to see them, and I will go see them like at high school reunion. But for me to go hang with them at the pool party is just with my makeup, the way I'm wired, and being in recovery. Uh, I just can't do those things. But
Yeah.
it's nice to reflect back on that time in my life when I was younger, because that's sort of like a missing piece of the puzzle. I had a big resentment that the same kid was, well, he's not a kid, but same friend from childhood who let out one of my secrets in grade school. That, like, up until that point, I was, behaved pretty well and everything. But when I was, had a football physical, and the doctor had to have a examination and to play, and he found that I only had. He said, when they get your testicles and they tell you to cough.
Yeah.
He said, okay, cough. And then he went into, he couldn't find my other testicle. And he told my dad, saying, well, sometimes when there's, somebody's scared or frightened or something like that, your testicle will raise up. And I told him, no, I've only had one. And what they did is they found it was undescended, and they had surgery, and they drew it down and put it back in the right spot, and I was about 11 years old. Well, this friend told him what the surgery was about, and then he told everybody in school. When I got back to school in grade school, they were all talking about it, man, and that was like,
oh, man,
it was a bad lick for me. I was like, golly, and I also had resentment for years at this guy behind that. But then I started acting out and being loud and being the clown. I got the attention focused off of me in a different way by getting in trouble and being funny. And looking back, that's sort of where it took off. And the teachers telling me that I'm unruly, and the parents didn't want me to go with them when they did field trips. Nobody wanted me to ride in their car, and boisterous. And I felt apart from that. But besides that, I was redheaded and had freckles, and I did make an attempt when I found out it was cool to be tan, and try to grow all my freckles together to get them, have a tan appearance, but that just didn't work. It just resulted in big blisters and skin peeling,
Yeah.
So, I had the deal going on. Like, I felt different, and really wasn't comfortable with my own skin, wanted to be somebody else. My father, he was an alcoholic and real strict disciplinarian, and that had a shape on. It shaped some of my childhood, and even on into where I'm at today. I still have some residual behind my relationship with him, and not so much the relationship, but it was like the trauma that I went through getting disciplined, with belts and switches, and just never knew when he was going to get upset with you, and living in fear. I could hear his feet coming down the hallway, man. I shut up and I hoped that they kept going past my door, and and so I sort of like walked on eggshells around him, and had a lot of fear. And my mother eventually, she divorced him. I was 10 years old. Then things got loosened up as far as mother having to go to work, supporting all three of his kids, and it wasn't like she could really keep an eye on us. And we were latchkey kids anyway. Walked to school back in my day and age. This is the middle 60s, and but I'd go stay at a friend's house and pretty much got to do whatever I wanted to do after that. But a couple guys that I really weren't friends with, but they were like, they. I heard that back in that day is Vietnam era, and they're bringing in dope from Vietnam, and somebody talked about getting a matchbox of weed for $2, and so I ended up smoking some weed with some kids when I was 13. It's in junior high, and then we started doing inhalants, and it was like once I did that, man, that lifted up a lot of the whatever thoughts I had about me and fears, and man, it was just a good place to be. I found some kind of relief,
Right.
and like a lot of people, they're sort of wired like us. Is that once you start something like that, you look forward to doing more. I also had a feeling like this isn't right. This wasn't, I've been warned against all these things. I've been, and one of my things that came to mind was like my mother would be upset if she knew or did this stuff. And then eventually that went away pretty quick, because once you start using everything, you think you got it going on, and you're on top of your game, and you don't. I don't know. At some point, I just stopped considering about. I thought I wasn't going to get caught.
Yeah.
And so some of that fear and stuff leaves. But I sort of got out of hand when I was 15, the beginning of my sophomore year. I kept getting in trouble for substance abuse and smoking and getting drunk. So my mother sent me to live with my father. Midterm, like in January of my sophomore year. And I wasn't there a week until somebody asked me, said, "Hey, you turn on?" I said, "Yeah." And they asked, "Do you fire up?" I said, "What's that?" They said, "Well, mainline." I said, "What's that?" They said, "Shoot up." I said, "No, I don't do that." But come to find out, that kid that asked me that just lived around the block from where my dad lived. And my dad lived in a little bitty shotgun shack. It's just got a front little walk-in living room, broke up by a small kitchen, and you walk directly into the bathroom, into the bedroom, and then the bathroom's combined with the bedroom. And they call it shotgun house because you can open up the front door and the back door, and you shoot right through it without hitting anything.
Right.
And he was never there. He had a girlfriend that lived 60 miles away, and that's where he stayed at. And he bought me an old 55 Buick Roadmaster and got me entered into school. And I'd go see him at his girlfriend's house on the weekends. But that kid lived around the corner. He brought over some crank, some meth, and I started shooting up. That was, that was good stuff. And I did my time there with my dad. Got out of there at school at the end of that year, and my mother kind of got me. I went home, and I was trying to introduce all my friends into firing up, shooting up dope.
Right.
And so you know how it goes. And I finally ended up doing heroin and got hooked on that when I was 18, and I hit a pretty good bottom. I got sick when the dope ran out. There wasn't anything in town. I found out you could do opiates, pharmaceuticals, and they were pretty good. Get sick off of you. But I just started swapping from one thing to the next, hallucinogenics, and back to meth, cocaine. But it was pretty much the opiates that was my drug of choice.
Yeah.
Found some enablers. I finally latched on to a good when she was a dancer, and then got her to hustle and more or less provided for my habit. Her and I were together for 11 years, and 8 years of that, we got down to where we're just living on the streets. And when I wasn't in jail, and she'd always support me through and that. But when she was in jail, I didn't do anything for her, but we always got back together. And one time that she was in jail, 1996, I said, man, I got to do something different. And I did a interview to get accepted into a detox treatment center in Abilene, Texas. And I ended up getting some hydrocodone and methadone and some time-release morphine fronted to me so I can make it through that treatment center, because I didn't think they could detox an addict like me.
Yeah.
That's where my recovery started. That time I was living on the streets, and I ended up catching some felonies, doing some time for the state of Texas behind cocaine and hydromorphone possessions. And the prisons were so overcrowded then, they allowed me to do my time in the county jail. They call it parolee in absentia. The state would pay the county jails to house the state prisoners. Just parole took a while to get off of because I kept violating me. I just wouldn't follow up. Parole officers, and after 42 months of that, 48 months, they finally just let me off of it. And that was in 94. So a year and a half later, 2 years later is when I got cleaned up. But man, I never thought there was a way out for me. I thought that was just my life was going to be like that. Because those times of incarceration, the times that I've been so sick I couldn't use dope, were the 2 or 3 week period, or any time I had some distance away from using drugs.
Yeah.
I was always thinking about them and always building a bank up, to resume where I left off at. Because 2 things that kept me using was, one, I thought there was going to be some way I can manage my drug use. There's got to be a combination, a way to do it, that I can use successfully. My plan was to get a doctor prescribing me some dope, some pills, some opiates. And if that wasn't enough, if I could hustle and steal $50 a day, to get some heroin or Dilaudid or whatever I had to buy to keep my head right, I could do that. I thought that was manageable.
Right.
But when I got into treatment, they took us to an NA meeting, and people started sharing about more or less being where I was at. And I related to that. And they took us, the other fellas to AA and to NA, and those people had some legitimate war stories, some, that seemed similar to mine. And one guy asked me, he said, he told me that he had 17 days clean. And I thought, dadgummit, man, if I only had 17 days clean, I'd feel better because I was sick.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize then is I do now that I thought maybe it was possible that I could get 17 days. And that's what I shot for. So that guy gave me some hope that maybe it was possible that I get 17 days clean too. And man, once I made that 17 days, I had a new goal in mind. It's called 30 days. So, that was my next target. But somebody just sharing their clean time in recovery with you, they can give you some hope, because it lets you know that it's possible, especially if if you consider them like valid, my mind was telling me I was worse than anybody else. You know, if they were like me, they couldn't stay clean. And but for some reason, you know, he it seemed sincere and really it gave me something to hang on to. And so if you're in recovery and someone, you know, is new, it's good to have someone point, you know, let them know how much clean time you have to try to give somebody some hope. And especially the new people. But I started going to meetings and I heard about a concept that the only way for recovery to happen is you have to stop using drugs, number one. And recovery can't stop until that happens. And they told me alcohol was a drug. And I thought in my mind, you got to use something. It seemed like, man, you know, why are you even working if you can't reward yourself in the afternoon? How the heck do you even get up and go to work if you don't have something to give you some energy? You know, that's right. What my mindset was back then.
Yeah.
And but that's what they said we had to do. And I knew that I needed to quit. But my goal was originally just to get 30 days clean so I could pass a UA, get a good job. And hopefully I would get hurt on that job and get some workman's compensation set up. And then some doctor prescribed me some prescriptions, you know, and that's where my mind was going. Like when I went up there, my plan, that was how I was allowing myself to stay there for 30 days without using because there was a brighter future ahead, according to my plan. Right. But when they told me that, and they also talked about that it's not the last car on, it's not the caboose on the train, it's not the last car on the train and to kill you, it's the engine, you know, the first one. And in other words, if you don't take that first one, man, you'll be okay. Because the nature of my disease is I just want more. One's not enough. And that stuck with me. I could relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. More.
I also wanted to get clean. You know, at that point, it was looking attractive to me. I don't know about you, but man, my family, they had gotten worn smooth out with me.
Yeah. 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 We have that effect on our family, don't we?
Oh, mercy sakes. And, you know, so I got a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse. The dope didn't really cover up my conscience. It, you know, everything creeped through. It just, the dope was ending up just being something that would allow me to function properly day by day. It wasn't about even getting high anymore. It was about keeping my head right. And I did that for years. And I thought I just couldn't function without it. But all the guilt, shame, remorse, and regrets that I had and the unavailability, just ghosting people, not being able to hold down jobs because the using was more important. All the bridges I burned, I just didn't know what to do about that. But my family seemed sincerely happy that I was there. And then that I seemed to have caught on to maybe what the problem was. Didn't really know at the time, but it was pointed out to me that drugs are not necessarily, you know, the use of drugs is not necessarily indication that you're an addict. It's the inability to use them to manage your using. You know, I mean, if you can't, what am I trying to say?
Moderate.
Yeah, if you can successfully use, you know, you can stop. You know, you wouldn't, like I say, using moderation and things like that. And it's my inability to manage that use of drugs was the major indication that something was wrong. And you know, and plus learning that I had a disease and recognizing that from other people sharing about how the disease affects them, it made me realize that I do have a disease too. You know, the disease of addiction, and it's made of obsession and compulsion. You know, all I did was thinking about getting high, getting drugs, and then compulsion. Once I started, I couldn't stop. I didn't want to either, but so I recognized that that's part of the disease. I had it, and the best thing about that is it really wasn't about a moral dilemma. It was a disease, and I was sick, and I needed to get better. Now I did a lot of immoral things. It's what I think. I went against the values, especially my raising and the values that I had set for myself. They all just disappeared. But it was just a big relief to find out that I wasn't alone and that there was a way out, and I finally bought in.
Yes.
And that's what put some wheels underneath me. And all I had to do is just look at the people who had more clean time than me and was doing the deal, and just grab on their shirt tail and let them pull me along.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man.
Started going to functions. Like they had some butt rocking dances in the 12-step fellowships and conventions and conferences, and where you learned more about how to live life. There's more than one part of just getting clean. Another part is get clean. You get away from drugs long enough until the obsession to use is lifted, and that was a big miracle for me.
Yeah.
And then the third part is then you find a new way to live, because I've been using drugs to cope with life since I was an early teenager. And so I didn't really have many coping skills. I had a lot of survival skills, which I learned what do you call them? Defects of character.
Yeah.
It's how we run our game, man. The scams or whatever it took to get what we wanted, and manipulation, dishonesty, and it's just all about what can y'all do for me, and and not taking anybody else into regards. It's a self-centered way to live. But so I still got that going on, because I heard if you take the dope away from a dope fiend, you still got a fiend left, and you need to work on that if you want to learn how to live and get by in the world without creating more havoc and have some peace of mind. So the new way to live was just working the 12 steps of the 12-step fellowship. And so I got busy with that and got sponsored. And I don't know, man. It set me on fire, because the first time in what I felt like in my whole life, I'd gotten some freedom. And because I wasn't having to live like that anymore. And and I had the backing of my family, but I'd go to visit them on holidays, and I'd go in their house, and I'd hear things like Thanksgiving. My mother would ask somebody, "Oh, is that a rum cake?" And she said, somebody could say, "Yeah." She said, "Well, Jeff can't have any of that." And of course, I think rum's cake cooked out of it.
Yeah, I remember having a similar meltdown, man. Whenever I had this is the first Thanksgiving after I got clean, and the damn rum cake threw me for a loop. I was like, man, did I just fucking relapse?
We went to after the meetings, we'd go bowling some nights, or we'd go drink coffee and have fun. But one night at the bowling alley, everybody's drinking out of styrofoam cups, and I grabbed a styrofoam cup, and it might have been from people on the next lane, and took a sip, and it was whiskey and Coke. And I thought, oh shit. And I wonder, I said, man, did I just twist off or what? I had that, this is like 90 days cleaning stuff. And so finally I had to share that, because I was carrying it with me, and they said, no, man, that was an accident, and you weren't intentionally drinking or something. But, you have experiences like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
So that was it was like I drank poison or something. I was fixing to die behind it.
Yeah.
I got to go to a 3-quarter house. It was old retirement center, uh, retirement home, nursing home in Abilene, and the guy had bought it. It was in disrepair, and he had 7 wings. Went out from the center and had wings going out, and he had 2 of them rebuilt, and the others were closed off. And I went out there, and the rules were like pay $45 a week and don't use. And proprietor of that place, he had like 10 years clean in NA, and I know that you'd met him recently at the retreat.
Yeah.
And so he let me stay there, and I ended up working $5 an hour and cash and a guy to come pick me up and take me to work. His name was Travis, and I begged him to take me to meetings. Like, well, you drunk? Let's go hit a noon meeting. I'm trying to make my 90 and 90. He reluctantly would, and what I'd found out, he had previously been clean and had about 5 years clean, and he twisted off, and he was just getting back, so he had like 3 weeks more clean time than me, and he reluctantly would take me to a noon meeting, take me to an evening meeting, and but then he warmed back up to it, and it wasn't very long after that he told me he wanted to start a meeting and needed my help.
Hell yeah.
And I told him, I said, what do you need my help for? Because I said, it looked pretty intimidating to me, these people that were chairing meetings, and this is the place I'm just learning about. It's 12-step fellowships. And he said, well, I can't do it alone. I need your help. And I said, man, I don't know what to do. I think you need to find somebody else. But I told the proprietor of where I was staying about it. And he said, well, all you need is commitment. And he said, you know what commitment is, don't you? I said, yeah, you don't screw around on somebody. And he said, no. He said, commitment's a willingness to follow through with your decision long after the meeting which you made it in is gone. That if it's a worthwhile decision, it's worth carrying through. And he said that's he believed that was a worthwhile commitment, because you'd be, out there trying to keep people from going out and dying. And all she needs is a coffee pot, a place to meet, and open up the doors on time and close them on time. And eventually people start coming. And that's what happened. I went ahead and participated in that. Man, it felt real good to be a part of something like that. And it gave me a purpose, carry the message that it was possible not only get clean, stay clean, but find a new way to live. And that's what they say, once you get clean and be in a program, it's like, man, you need to give it back or you can't keep it. The only way to keep it is to give it away.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm going to do this. Am I going to do this for a year? Set a goal to make it for a year? Well, I can set a goal for it, but really, for me, recovery is a lifelong process. And it's not that I'm going to can call myself an addict. I'm an addict for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a recovering addict and participate in the fellowship to keep the disease up off of me. I don't want to go back where I've been. And this is really the first thing that's ever worked for me in my life. And I feel like I owe a big debt of gratitude to it. So, that's what I've been doing since October 26th, 1996 is just keep coming back and trying to give it away.
Yeah.
So, and it all sort of started back then. They call that service work, being of service to the fellowship. And sponsor that I'd gotten in 1998, he's fully involved in service and still is to this day. And he was really good to run around with. And we made a lot of road trips going to area and regional meetings and conventions everywhere. And we were out in Abilene, Texas. We'd drive all the way up to Amarillo, and we'd go all the way out to El Paso. And that region stretched from the Panhandle all the way down to Mexico to Del Rio, Texas. So it was, it was a 6-hour drive from San Angelo to El Paso. Make that closer to 8, come to think of it.
Yeah, it's a
So we
big
spent a
ass
lot of time
area
on the
right there,
highway.
brother.
Yeah, had a lot of good quality time with Lewis, with
Yeah.
my sponsor. And, of course, I never did resume the relationship with my significant other from my using days and the times we were on the street. She did follow me into the rooms later. I just told her I just couldn't do it anymore, and wish her the best. And she's done good. I hear from her time to time, and know where she's at. If she needs any help or something, I'll help her. My wife today is clued in on that, and she's all for it. I got somebody on my side that not worried about the past and securing herself, and knows that I set my boundaries when it comes to relationships or stepping outside of relationships. I know how to set my own boundaries. And, I've had girlfriends trying to set them for me before. They were fearful that somebody's going to get their man, but I got a healthy relationship today. But, I'd gotten married in 1999 from this gal, and I dated her from 97 on up to that point. She was having a hard time staying clean, and I wanted her to have a year clean before we got married, and I waited for that and watched her go back and forth. And then after we got married, she did the same thing. I thought I would fix her by marrying her, but she resumed her cycles and patterns, and I had to step out of that and get a divorce. And just for me, the cycle and pattern continued, and the only thing that could change it was me stepping out of it. And I had to do that, and that wasn't easy. But whether you're in recovery or not, part of life, and you get served up, it's hard. It's hard on you,
Yes.
It takes all your energy from you, and instead of carrying all that load, I have a sponsor to share it with. I talked to him about it, and he said, "Yeah, man, I'll walk every step of the way with you." And he did, and it was a tough deal. She's doing good to this day. Her and my sponsor are best friends, and they help each other and see each other and participate in each other's families stuff. And so I know she's doing well, and which is good. But man, it's allowed me to go down the road too, and life's been good.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Started doing the $5 an hour work. I was wondering, how long that would last, and eventually started up a little remodeling business there in Abilene, and then my partner Travis, bless his heart, he twisted off, and I had to dissolve that, and Travis ended up in prison due to manufacturing. He died in federal prison 3 years ago of cancer. But that man, he really got me going, got me started and got me involved with the groups, and man, I owe a lot to him. And, just asking me or having some faith that I could help him, get a group going. But, it's, you come to the forks in the road sometime, and, it depends on your spiritual footing on which direction you go.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Travis went down the wrong path again. So his first time, but I got hired on by a general contractor doing construction at a Air Force base in San Angelo, Texas, and that's where my future wife was from. And this was in '97, early part of '98. So I went down there, and that's how I got hooked up with her. She had, was from down there as well as my sponsor. That's where they live. And on the interview, the superintendent got me in his truck and said, "Hey, how long you been clean?" I said, "What do you mean clean?" I said, "I don't know this guy." he said, there's an NA symbol on your shirt pocket, right? I said, dadgummit, I had an NA t-shirt on. I said, yeah. And he told me, he said, man, I'll have 10 years clean at the end of this month. I was like, wow, man, that was a God deal. Never met this guy before. And he said that he'd been going to NA meetings. But I told him, I said, I've been down here for 3 weeks. I hadn't seen you at one. He said, well, I got a resentment, and I've been going to church instead. So he had taken that path. And what I realized today, the 12-step fellowships are definitely not the only venue to go to get clean and stay clean. The solution's spiritual. And so whatever avenue you go down that road to go is just fine with me, as long as you can do it, get some help, and carry on, man, with your life. Get your life back from drug addiction, substance abuse. I'm all for it. But, that led into to that superintendent. I got his job. He moved up to project management, and in 2006, I've been working there for a little over 7 years, and they asked me if I want to move up to Oklahoma City. And I told them, I said, I guess so. So I relocated. I was divorced, didn't have any deep roots down there other than my recovery community. And got up here, and the vice president of operations said that he would like to make a project manager out of me. And I had no formal, schooling. Everybody up there, the project managers and the engineers, they were all degreed up. And so I felt like, man, I don't know. He said, well, just look under the hood, and if you don't like it, you can go back to being a superintendent. And I had never got my GED until Ronnie hired me on down in San Angelo, and he made me get my GED. So that was what I carried into the home office for the general contractor that I still work for today. That was 2006, and so I've been up here 16 years. And when I first got there, I was just so overwhelmed, and it was just too much, man. It's like I felt like I could go through a transition period in 90 days.
Yeah.
And you go through a curve and you'd learn something, right? You'd learn to deal in like 90 days. And then it stretched out, and I felt like I was going to get fired every day. I could hear my daddy's footprints coming past my office door. I said, oh, shit, they're coming to me, And finally, at 6 months there, and waiting to get fired because, man, I felt like, I just hadn't gotten a grip on managing these projects. I finally asked for an assessment and an evaluation. And he told me, he said, it's something I heard in recovery. Jeff, he said, you're right where you're supposed to be. Your head's on fire, isn't it? I said, yeah. He said, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant, isn't it? I said, yep. He said, yeah. I said, well, I thought I'd go through the transition, in 90 days or 120 days. He said, oh, no, this is a 2-year transition period. And I said, dadgum. And I was really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2-year transition. And he said, you might make a ward on the project manager's ass in a couple of years. And I said, okay. And so I've been there with them. I've worked for this company now for over 20 years. And I'm looking to retire out in about 2.5 to 3 years. Maybe sooner if I take a notion. I got a pretty stressful job, and actually today this is my job is the only thing that sort of robs my peace of mind from me, because everything I do is based on deadlines, and you're always running up against things, and man, I have a tendency to put really hard things that it's in front of me, that's really hard work, put them off and do the easier stuff. And then I used to tell myself I work well under pressure, because when it came down to it and I had to get everything done, I can get it all done and beat the time frame.
Yeah.
But what it was, I was procrastinating until waiting till the last minute. So I had to get it done. It wasn't that I could work well under pressure. I put all that on me. And so I've been doing my best to fight that, to take care of, hit things head on, the hard things,
Yeah.
and head on at work, and as opposed to putting them off and then letting them eat my lunch up by worrying about them all weekend when I'm supposed to have time off and relaxing, or even having to go work on weekends because I put stuff off. So that's the biggest stress area in my life, is to be self-motivated, because nobody's telling me when to come to work, what time I should leave. They're just expecting me to get my job done. And I had that freedom and they let me do that. So the one I've been fighting and disappointing has been me. And so it takes a program in sharing that stuff so I can have accountability partners. And my sponsor is really good. I'm telling him, hey, I'm sloughing off. I feel bad, like I'm robbing time from the company today, but I'm having an off day. He'll tell me just to start over and forgive yourself and work for 5 minutes. And usually when I can do that, I can take off with it, get back in gear. But I got to watch it, the screw it's. My mind will just say, that's the answer for everything. Just screw it till tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest joy stealer, peace of mind stealer I have in my life, because family and then financially, I've gotten to the point where I've learned how to manage my finances and take care of my financial responsibilities. That started, I give credit to the dude. If you ask him how he's doing, he said, what the heck does he say? Coming up from a loss on a lot of names and stuff. Oh, yeah, Dave Ramsey. I got to give credit to that dude, because he talked about how to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And so I bought in on that. And in 2015, I'd gotten out of debt, and I've stayed like that. And my wife, she worked through $40,000 worth of debt before we got married in 2017. Knocked it out in 18 months by negotiating with creditors and busting her ass and selling everything but the kids to get out of debt. But so we have security, financial security. Bought our home in 2017, and we both started just knocking it out, throwing everything at it we can, at our mortgage. And then 3 years to the day that we bought our house, we paid it off. I had to dig $12,000 out of the prudent reserve, but we discussed that. You got 6 months of living expenses or more in prudent reserve. So we dipped into that and paid the house off. We're homeowners. I've never bought a home in my life. I was always fearful of that commitment. And, but it worked out. It's like when you step out on faith, sometimes, man, God will show off for you if you do your part. So the financial piece is good for me right now. And so that feels good.
And that's huge, man. That's still, every time you talk to me about that, man, that is one of the most monumental achievements I've ever heard about anybody in the rooms accomplishing, like that's huge, Jeff.
Well, some strange things happened. Let's say I got an inheritance from like a 14th cousin removed, with 300 something people on the list. And I think the property's worth $3.5 million. I got like $3,000. Okay. Which was cool. But anytime I had a windfall like that, it went right to the paying the mortgage off. And we had there were several things happen. I'd have to go back and look, because I wrote it up and I journaled it and jotted all these down on how it ended up happening. But man, there was a lot of things that came our way, little stuff, 400 here, 600 there, and bonus from work or something like that. Income tax refund, it all went there. So we just threw everything at it, and sometimes
I'd see on the social media where they have the markets and they sell stuff, and my wife is big in that. And I said, golly, that looks like that is mine. I said, man, there goes my ab lounger, selling that. All kinds of stuff that she had asked me about. Hey, or you think you'll use that? And that's no. And she's selling all her stuff and throwing it at it. So she was good. I didn't expect her to jump on board. My mind was telling me it's going to be all about me, paying everything. And it wasn't at all. And I got a partner that pulled her weight and more. And I didn't see that coming. And so, I was fearful to buy the house to begin with. Since it's the first time I'd ever done anything like that.
Yeah, dude, that's massive, man. I mean, just look at where you started. Look at where you started and where you're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just like heaps and bounds, blessings. Not quitting 5 minutes before the miracle happens on some things. Not giving up on love. I wasn't even looking for, I decided just to back off relationship deal, and then I ran into my wife at a fundraiser, and we started talking, and we put everything straight up, from the beginning. Was like, of course, I was a representative. My representative showed up. I want to show her, to who I am, and I'm in the program. I know all this good jargon. She's in the program, so I'm trying to, instead of be a sugar daddy, to be a program daddy and talk all this good program stuff, impress her, and take her out to eat all these nice places and do this and do that, and put on my best face, and eventually the representative bows out and the real you shows up. And because you're going to be on your best foot forward when you're dating someone, and shut that down. And so that's what I did. And once we got to knowing the real person that we are, and the ability to just be direct. At the beginning, I told her, I said, look, if you want to date other people while you're dating me, I said, I can't do that. If you're dating me, you're just going to have to date me specifically, straight up. I know we don't know each other, but it's sort of like asking you to go steady, but I'm just letting you know I'm not going to do that unless we're seeing each other only, because that would just eat me up. So I have to share things like that right off the bat. And she thought I was a drug dealer because I carried 2 cell phones, for some reason. I was dealing drugs, and because I guess that's what she used to see in her drug dealer. I quit using drugs so long. There wasn't even cell phones out back then. There was a brick, maybe, but anyway. And she said, there's little things that went through her mind. It wasn't like she really thought that, but she wondered. Little things we know that we tune into as triggers, like, oh, there's a red flag. And we discussed about being honest with each other, and anything based on dishonesty is going to eventually crumble. So, why throw something out there now that's going to set you up to fail later? And we talked about traditions of the traditions in the program, especially the first one. Our common welfare should come first, or our personal recovery depends on unity. And it's the same thing in a relationship. Our common welfare is that our relationship succeed. And I told her, I'm in this relationship for it to succeed. And she said she was too. But if you're in a relationship and you really don't want it to succeed, in other words, like, I'm not going to carry her home to mama, but it sure is nice and convenient, that means you're using somebody. If you're not in a relationship for it to succeed, you're using them. So it's like, if you have a business venture with someone, so, okay, I can do this with this person for 3 months, and this will set me up to do that. That means you're using them. You know, and unless they're okay, then you got to communicate. Hey, look, I'm going to use you for 3 months. And be upfront with them, like, okay, this is a stepping stone in our relationship. as a business, is this the way you see things? Is this going to benefit you too, or can you help me or mentor me? But and so we agreed upon that from the start. And so whatever it's going to take to make a relationship a success, that's what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And feeling our way, and then have to have the trust that, okay, since we're only going to see each other, that means if someone hits on you, I don't want you to tell me about it. I just want you to set your boundary, and I trust you to set your own boundary with people. You can tell me about it if you want to. It's funny, but don't tell me about it if it's my best friend.
Yeah.
Or maybe you should. No, but or you set a boundary with them where you tell them you're going to tell me if you ever do it again. But no, we didn't discuss that about best friends. But my mind just went there.
10-4. Well, man, one of the things I'm curious about, and I want to take it back a little bit, if you don't mind, but whenever you first got clean and you started coming around, what would you say? What did you have to relearn how to be a human?
I still had a lot of that attention seeking. Man, I hate, you have limericks and you have BS. You got your line of crap and talk smack to people. Yeah, I'd have to say I'd had to relearn that. And, that's where the principles came in. They're talking about, well, you need to be humble. Humility is one of them. They were looking at 6th and 7th step in the program. And, but it was like my ego was out there and trying to let somebody know that I was all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah.
And the only way I knew to do that was by talking dirty shit, getting somebody's face, or tear somebody down and trying to build me up. My social skills were crap. I couldn't talk about anything except for what I knew, and all the scams, all the games, war stories. I didn't have anything to put out there in a positive fashion that anybody could learn from.
Right.
Just tricks of the trade. But, one thing I could get into was like a bottom. I understood somebody's bottom and understood somebody's pain. And I was learning about, getting honest. But it took a while to go through the steps to get to a point where I even address my behaviors to others and the way I carry myself and present myself. So, yeah. And then I still would have, after I was aware of how I acted and aware how I was trying to command attention or to take the spotlight off someone else and put it on me, you still revert to that from time to time, especially when you get into a war storytelling with other people. You want to jump in.
Yeah.
And you want the attention. And then you sit back and you realize, oh, man, that's what I did for the first 3 or 4 years when I got here. And but you still want to join in.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But communicate, talk to people work-wise. I didn't know how to take care of myself physically. Didn't know my ways around. I didn't feel like that I was worthy of going to the doctor to check on something if I had some pain, or I just didn't feel like I knew how. I didn't realize that once you have insurance that you could actually go use it. I thought, all I knew about hospitals was going up there trying to get pain pills, emergency rooms, clinics, and then the never paying them any money and being in debt to them and stuff. And I had some of that baggage that I eventually cleaned up. And but being reluctant to use the medical community because I'd abused it for so long.
Yeah.
Same thing with the banking system. I didn't want to get a checking account because all I ever did was stayed upside down and overdrafts and hot checks and
Yeah. That low grade credit line right there. Overdraft protection, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Dude.
you know, it's somebody said you need to build your credit up, and how do you do that? Well, you go get a loan and you pay them back, and you know you find out, well, you have your credit history was zero credit history. It's just been so long that you'd had any kind of credit. You had zero, just no credit history at all, and so then get a credit card. Well, how do you do that? Well, you pay it off every month. You only spend what you can pay off each month. And you know, how do you do that? Well, you keep track of each and every purchase you make, and make sure you have that much in your checking account to pay it at the end of the month. Well, heck, that never worked. And
No.
I went upside down to the max, and I started paying minimal payments on maximum amounts. And so, you know, we just dig holes. No, I did not know how to live. I did not know how to live. And same thing with dating, talking to women, and it's like, how do you do that? But it sort of took care of itself. We still have fears, and once you're in a relationship, you don't know how to discuss things. I didn't know how to discuss things with my first wife. Even those 2 or 3 years we were dating and going through the cycles and patterns, I really couldn't come clean or be intimate or share what I feared might upset her if I, you know, took her inventory about this, or it might run her off, or she might go use if I do this. And my sponsor told me, you know, if you say something powerful enough to make someone go use, he said, don't worry about it. He said, you got the power to clean them up. You got the power to make them use. So if you think you made somebody use, go tell them, hey, you'll get cleaned back up. You know, if you have that much power. And I realized I didn't have the power to make anyone use, but you know, you have those fears, and you won't have conversations. You won't have honest conversations, and then you don't even be honest with yourself. You can't even be honest with yourself that someone's not treating you correctly.
Right.
And you're hanging the codependent relationships, because it's probably everything was based on the fear of my future is going to be like my past. And once somebody leaves you and then you get back with them, then you're waiting for them to leave you again.
Right.
And so I was liking a lot of torture because I didn't know what the deals were until I started working through all the issues, but being honest about what was going on with me and how I felt about things. That I never had any breakthroughs until I started recognizing what I'm going through and being able to verbalize it and share it with somebody else. And the truth is, I didn't know how to do that until I heard other people do it. And sharing about exactly what was going on with them. And I thought, oh, okay, I can recognize that.
Yeah.
That just what I went through or what I'm going through. They gave me the ability to share about it because they did. So, man, it's a learning process.
Yeah. And I got to say, man, that's one of the things I value most about our relationship. And any time that I call you, is you very, very rarely will give me your opinion. You will always share your experience on something, you know, and that's just the way we learn, man. I don't know what it is about opinions, but like, shit, man, I will rarely listen to somebody's opinion. I just won't. But if you're telling me how something happened in your life and what you did to change it, I'm way more, able to hear that and apply that to my own life.
I'm with you too, because it's also I've learned not to give advice because, you know, if they say, well, okay, this is what I think you should do. You should go home and tell your wife that she doesn't start helping clean up around the house and washing her own damn clothes and start cooking, that you're going to kick her out. And, you know, then they come back to me and I said, well, what happened? I said, well, she kicked me out. or something. So I'm a victim, and it's because of what you told me to tell her. And if I don't have any experience with that, by saying, man, y'all need to get some, I don't know anything about what's going on with y'all. I'm not a marriage counselor, but I suggest that y'all see one. That's what I should say, right? Especially if I don't have any experience with what they're going through. Because if you tell somebody, give them some advice, and they take it, and if things don't go the way they think it should go, then all of a sudden you're a perpetrator. They were the victim up until they came to you seeking help, and then they follow your advice, and they think they're a victim again, but because they followed your advice. So yeah, it's best to give your own experience, to share your experience instead of saying this is what I think you should do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So something that I have everybody do that I was really wanting you to do for us, man, is that if you could take just a couple of minutes and address that person who is tuning in, struggling to get clean, what would you tell them?
Man, we'll have to reach out. And unfortunately, the first hand that's going to help you around here is the one at the end of your own sleeve, and you got to reach it out and ask for some help. And a lot of times we've done that. We've sort of asked for help, but we're trying to control the type of help we receive. And it didn't tell you that you're ready to go in blind and just follow recommendations, suggestions to the T, and just say, come in with the mindset that you don't know anything. That really will help if you just come in with the mindset of where, like, okay, I'm a blank page, start writing on me, fill me in. Because if you're all knowed up, there's no way to give you any new information because you know it all. But apparently, if you're like me, I knew it all too until I realized that I was unteachable. So you just have to be open-minded to the fact and surrender. And really, the truth is that you've been in a war. Using drugs and not being able to stop, man, it just puts you in a war zone. And it's hard, the disease of addiction is the general, and it tells you to march, and you got to march. And it's time to go AWOL from that army and just surrender, cease fighting, and just do whatever you're told to do. Go to a detox, get into a treatment center, just go to a meeting and stop using just for today. But go in with an open mind and try to follow suggestions, see what the other people have done, and just do what they've done. That's what I've done, and it's worked for me. But just have your eye on the thought that you've just stopped digging your hole deeper, and things will get better. Sometimes they take longer, but they will get better.
Hell yeah, man. That 1% better is still better. Like there's some days, shit, man, I really got to hold on to that 1%. You know what I mean? I really got to hold on to it.
Yeah, you got to recognize it.
For sure.
That 1% could be just you didn't use that day, Yeah. And that's really 100%. So
yeah.
It might feel like 1%, but it's a win, a big win.
Yeah, that's one of them things you really you taught me a lot, man. There'd be those days I'd just felt like I got my ass whipped. Always point out, and you still do. Well, hell, did you use today? No, you had a good day, and that is successful. But it's about, and you touched on it in your story, man. And something that I think is real important is that you take the dope away from a dope fiend, you still got a fiend. So a lot of this work that we do is about actually addressing those core issues, beyond the drug use. And so once we get into that place, man, that those percentages of being better than we were yesterday tend to increase dramatically once we start chipping away at some of that stuff deep down. But Jeff, brother, man, it's always an honor to get to talk to you, man. I value our relationship so much, and I'm just thrilled that you took the time to come hang out and share your story with us, man.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I do want to say one thing. You're talking about, on those days that you get your butt kicked and everything. And and that happens in life. You can get your butt kicked. The thing about you is that you share about them butt kickings. You'll call up and say, man, it's been tough. And, without doing that right there opens the door to growth. And what I've seen you do, every time you get your butt kicked, you take that as an opportunity to grow. You may not do it right then and there, but you get your lessons. I don't see you repeating a lot of the same stuff anymore.
That's good.
So that's what we're all trying to do is like, what's the lesson in this? On them days that you get drug around like, you're the rag and the pit bull's got you and just shaking you side to side.
Yeah.
So, man, what's the lesson in this? I don't want to go through this experience again. So I see that a lot in that, and you helped me grow, brother. You helped me grow.
Man, it's one of them type of things, man. We get to do this thing together, and that's the fucking beauty of it.
It's been good.
And what do they say, man? It's all right to make mistakes, just make new mistakes, right?
Yep.
Well, shit, I've knocked off quite a few off the board, man. I won't be doing no more.
I know shit. You have. Yeah. Damn, that dude's got high endurance for pain, high tolerance.
Hell yeah, glutton for punishment over here, brother. But well, shoot, Jeff. Well, man, thanks again for coming on, and shit, you're always welcome, man. Anytime you want to come on and chat, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Drew. I love you, bro.
I love you too, man.
All
right. There you have it. Thanks again to Jeff for coming on. And I hope that you guys got something out of that. And let me just tell you, if you're new to recovery and you're looking for a sponsor, do not settle. Do not settle. Jeff and I first met back whenever I started up a recovery meeting, and different recovery fellowships will have different service structures, and in a given area they'll have like an area business meeting. And I went there and just said, hey, I want to start a meeting where I'm at. And that's when Jeff came and introduced himself to me and like donated a whole bunch of literature to the startup of the meeting, and really just out the gate showed me what it meant to be someone working a solid program of recovery. And throughout the years, man, I've learned so much from him. Jeff, I love you so much, brother. Thank you for being a part of my life. And thank you to all of you that are out there. Thanks for tuning in for another week. Everything's going great here where I'm at. Life is good. I hope life is good where you are. One PSA that I wanted to put out there is that there is a dangerous bit of misinformation going on regarding heroin with fentanyl in it. I've heard multiple people tell me, hey, if you're worried about your heroin having fentanyl in it, you can smoke it and you'll be okay. Let me tell you, I know someone this last week who overdosed by smoking heroin laced with fentanyl. So, man, if you're listening to this, please get to recovery. But moreover than that, just please test your supply, okay? Until you're ready to come into the rooms, until you're ready to be a part of this thing, just test your supply and just be safe out there, guys. All right, so that's all I'm going to say on that. I'm going to lead it into the song of the day. This is Shakey Graves, and the song is called Late July. And this is just a fun tune. I really enjoy it. I know you'll dig it too. And yeah, I love y'all so much. Stay tuned because next week is the 100th episode of the Clean Libertarian Podcast. I got a dad roundtable coming up. All the boys are going to be on. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
nigga took my money, dipped my heart in hands and honey. Oh, snake lady stole my savings. Gold digger, she was having my baby's will. Gold digger swan, snake lady fell. Yeah, I took gold digger up to Chapel Hill. Oh, I married her fast, murdered her young, took my money back and made my run. Well, bus driver, all in red, yeah, go pull this bus over and end up dead. Yeah, go drive this bus down to Mexico, park it on a cliff where that good grass grows, until a chopper came along one sunny day to burn my crops, lock me away. Well, I'm eager, young and qualified, got a date with that Cheryl in late July. Oh yeah, well my mama, old and gray, sitting at home just weeping away her only boy washed down the drain. Gonna take the son and lock him away. Well, mama should be proud of me. I lived like a man, oh, I'll die like a king, 'cause I'm eager, young and qualified. Got a date with that Cheryl in late July. But my pappy, old and fat, chewing his cigars with his hair slicked back, yeah, roll him over, beat him black. Say it's from that boy he never had. Well, Papa should be in my place to fry like bacon, hang like lace, because I'm eager, young and qualified. I got a date with that Cheryl in late July. Yeah, well, Big Betty, oh, my old squeeze. Oh, yes, you're so good, you go weak in the knees. Yeah, come to see your old man pop. I wanna have you there when my big heart stops. But don't you worry, don't you fret. No, I won't die with no regrets, 'cause I'm eager, young and qualified. Yeah, I'm eager, young and starry-eyed. Oh, the big leagues called and I replied. I got a date with that Cheryl in late July.